Hello and welcome back to the Drag Detective, where today we are going to discuss how All Stars 3 would have went if it was not rigged. Now, this season didn't have like a ton of rigging, but there was enough that I found some different things that would have happened. I know this is a lot of people's like second favorite, or I guess now third favorite All-Star season. I have the unpopular opinion that I prefer All-Stars 4 because it has more episodes that I think are amazing. I think All-Stars 3, the first 3 episodes of this season, the talent show, the Divas Live, and then the Bachelor, are 3 of the best All-Stars episodes ever, like period. But then I think the season really nosedives because you have a really bad snatch game, you have the whole deal with Aja, and then you have, of course, Ben eliminating herself, and the last 2 episodes are like a train wreck. So in my opinion, All Stars 4 is better for longer, so I have it above All Stars 3 in my ranking. But I still think there's a lot to talk about with this season, and I think it is overall a pretty solid season. It has a great group of girls, and we're going to break down every single episode, how the judging should have gone. Of course, these are just my opinions. I try and be as unbiased as I possibly can. So let's get into it. But first, if you are not already, subscribe to the channel. We would love to have you. That way you get to see whenever I put out new videos. And here are the links to my social medias. Follow me on my Instagram and my Twitter. And here's also the link to my Patreon. Now, I decided to do this video a little bit differently. Usually, I would just be like, here's my wins, here's my highs, here's my tops, whatever. But I decided to do this one a little different because I think that the tops and the bottoms aren't as obvious as in some other seasons. So what I decided to do is I'm going to rank the queens' performances from 1 to 10, or however many queens are left, each episode, and then that will determine who will be in the top, who will be in the bottom, and all of that, and we can break that down. I also decided to only have a bottom 2, as we talked about in the riggory of All Stars 3. Check out that video in the upper right-hand corner first if you have not seen that yet. They kind of ping-pong between having a bottom 2 and then a bottom 3, and so we're just going to have a bottom 2 unless there is only 5 queens left. Then we will do, if you're not in the top, you are in the bottom. So I think that's all the rules that I have to go through. So let's just start off with what I think is still the best talent show we have yet to see on the show. So starting off with number 10. Now, I just want to say, none of the talent shows in this episode were bad. I don't think there was like a Coco or a Fifi where it was just like cringy. I think everyone did a pretty solid job, and it really came down to just like the little details that determined who was in the bottom and who was in the top and all of that. I also think this was the best variety of performances we got. You know, we got people playing instruments, we got people dancing, we got people doing all kinds of things. And, you know, as we will see in later seasons, there's a lot of bringing your own song and singing it, which we get a couple of those in this season, but it feels very fresh. So in 10th place, I put Chi Devayne. Now, obviously, Chi was so talented. She was such a standout on her original season, season 8, and it was just really sad to see her not reach her full potential this season. You know, I don't know if she was just in her head or, you know, what was going on. She just didn't seem to be there. She didn't seem to be in the competition, and it shows in this talent show because, I mean, she's wearing these horrible shoes and her hair is all flat and her costume is just kind of basic. Now, the routine itself, I think, is really fun and different, and, you know, she's twirling a baton and whatnot, but we also know from insider knowledge, I can't remember which queen said this, but one of the queens from the season was like, yeah, Chi dropped her baton. So they do 2 takes for each talent show, and in one of the takes, Chi dropped her baton. They were nice enough to not include this footage in the actual episode, unlike Pheromone the following season, But yeah, Chi, I think she was just missing that extra spark that a lot of the other queens had in their performances. So I am going to put Chi at number 10. Now, number 9, I really struggled. The next two are going to be Morgan and Milk. The order of them I struggled with. Because Morgan, she looks incredible. This is one of the best bodysuits we have ever seen. Her wig is amazing. Her makeup is amazing. But when I think of Morgan, I don't necessarily think of her like singing. I don't know. To me it was weird that she came out doing a song. I mean, I know she's a dancer, but I don't know. I wanted more dancing, you know what I mean? Or coming out, hearing her roast people. Like, those are the things that I think of when I think of Morgan. Milk coming out doing this Velcro fashion moment. I mean, that is branded for Milk, right? I mean, she's the quirky fashion queen. That made me put Morgan at 9th and Milk at 8th, which I did, is how they interacted with the audience. Morgan, as we know, was kind of looking at the queens. She wasn't playing to the audience. Whether or not you liked Milk's performance or not, she was engaging that audience. They were laughing, they were clapping. She was, making them all feel included in her performance. So it's those little things that made me put Milk above Morgan. But I think that the Velcro could have been more. She could have done so much more. When I think of Milk doing a talent show, I think of something completely out there. And this felt a little safe. But it's branded to her. She really interacted with the audience. The judges seemed to really like it. So I really can't say it was bad, and I can't justify putting it below Morgan and Chi-Chi's, who I saw, more specific issues with their performance. So now we're going to move on to number 7. And basically everyone from here on up, I think, did a great job. Like, great. So number 7, I put Trixie Mattel. Obviously, she looked amazing. She sounded amazing. She's performing an instrument. I think it's a harpsichord or something like that. And it's something we have not seen before on the talent show. My one issue is kind of the issue that I have with like Adore's performance in the talent show on All Stars 2. The song, while it's a great song, I love Moving Parts. It is such a, sappy little cute bop. It doesn't go anywhere, so it kind of lacks some of the grandiose nature that some of the other performances had. So while she was spot on, she was branded, she was great, I have no complaints overall. Some of the other performances just felt a bit bigger. So I am going to put Trixie at 7, but she still did a really, really good job. Number 6, I put Kennedy Davenport. Now, this was like the stereotypical, I'm going to say, but like, I don't want that to take away from how good it was. Kennedy performance, like when I think of what would Kennedy Davenport do for a talent show, this is it. She's going to do her hair whip. She's going to do her like jump split thing where she like spreads her legs and like bounces. She does all these incredible moves. She flips onto the box. All of these incredible moves. The only thing that I think kind of knocks her down a peg is that Aja came first in the talent show before Kennedy. Like, Aja danced too, but there were so many more elements to the performance that Kennedy, immediately following her up, was pretty much shade by by the producers to put them in this order, because Kennedy's just didn't feel as amazing. Like you see Aja's dance performance and then you see Kennedy's, and you can obviously tell which one is better. But Kennedy still obviously knows how to own a stage. One of the greatest dancers the show has ever seen. So I think number 6 is a great spot for her. Number 5, I'm going to put Bibi Zahara Binet. Now, Bibi did an amazing job of branding herself, showing her African heritage, having a lot of fun with the performance. She was just having fun on that stage, and the audience was feeling her energy. And this is everything a talent show, I think, should be. Something memorable and something that you go, that is exactly what I wanted to see from Bibi. So, incredible job from Bibi. Number 4, I put Thorgy Thor. Now, Thorgy was high in this episode. There was actually no low placements. There was a top 4, and then everyone was safe, and then there was a bottom 2, which I actually agree with. I don't think that any performance was bad enough to be a low. I mean, I guess people would put Milk there, and I guess by my rankings, Milk would be low. But I fully agree that I think this is so good. Let's just focus on the positives. Let's focus on the top 4 and the bottom 2. So Thorgy is going to be high. And she, of course, is the violin queen. She has her Thorchestra that she travels all over the place with. And it was a lot of fun. She looked amazing. You could definitely see how she stepped it up from season 8 with her looks. And she still managed to add some of that, like, quirky zaniness that Thorgy is just known for into the performance when she does her one-handed cartwheel and she's like sticking her tongue out. It's fun. It's really fun. And the performance builds, which I think is also a great thing to do with your talent show. You know, you don't want it to be one level the whole time. You don't want to start at a 10 and end at a 10. You want to start at like a 6 and then build your way up to a 10. So it's like the end is this big moment. And I think Thorgy did that really well. Now, number 3, I'm going to put Shangela. Is this very reminiscent of Alyssa Edwards' talent show from All Stars 2? Yes. But you cannot deny that the performance had layers. I mean, literally, she had reveals. She's telling her story. She's catching you all up on where she's been, what she's doing, and why Shangela is such a drag race staple. She has incredible dance moves. The fastest death drop I think the show has ever seen to this day. And she just has so much positivity and energy behind her performance. It is infectious, and she did such a good job at, I think, hitting all of the bases in the talent show. And now we have our top 2, which were the top 2 from the actual episode. So I actually fully agree with the critiques on this episode. Dayla, I'm going to put at number 2. She does this really funny burlesque number with all these tassels and reveals, and it is just so camp. It's so Dayla, and it is such a great way to reintroduce herself to Drag Race. So I put her number 2. Number 1, it's my favorite talent show of all time to this day. It's Aja. Is she just dancing to her original song? Yes, but she did so many things that were unexpected. She has reveal upon reveal, and each reveal looks better than the last, and she jumps off this box into the split. Like, it is so fun. Constant energy, constant just shocking moments, and I think everyone remembers seeing this for the first time. This is one of those moments in the show where everyone is like, I remember being at the bar, seeing Aja jump off the box. Or I remember being at home with my boyfriend watching. Like, that's one of those moments from the show. So I think Aja, out of every queen that was on this cast, truly had something to prove. And I think that she did it basically right off the bat with this incredible talent show. So we have a bottom 2 of Morgan and Chi-Chi, and a top 2 of Aja and Dayla. And, I mean, Dayla wins the lip sync, and she sends home Morgan, which was definitely shady. And if this was a who actually deserved to go home video, Chi-Chi would go home. But it's not rigged that Dayla made this decision. You know what I mean? Like, she did this on her own. Even if it's not necessarily fair, it's not rigged. Now we're going to move into the Rusical, which was the Divas Live Challenge. This is a highly controversial episode, as I talked about in the riggory of All Stars 3. Not all parts are made equal, and I think this episode is like the most clearly defined. This queen has nothing to do, and this queen has props and gags and jokes and all that. So I really struggled, because I do think it's unfair for Thorgy to ask for a cauldron and a broomstick and them to say no. When BenDeLaCreme gets, the microphone and, like, the magic bag and, all these things, and Shangela gets these male dancers to pick her up and carry her around. Trixie gets the guitar, and, like, everyone gets these props. Well, not everyone, but a lot of people get props. Thorgy asks for a prop, and they're like, no. So we're going to just say, I think this is a very easy way to just unrig it. Thorgy gets the props that she asked for. I don't think that's unfair. Other queens get props. She should get props. She asked for a cauldron and a broomstick. The prop department's like, we got you, bitch. Here's your cauldron and your broomstick. How would that affect her performance? Would it keep her out of the bottom? Well, let's look. So in ninth place, last place for this episode, I put Kennedy. Now, this was a real disappointment because when I heard Kennedy Davenport was going to be doing Janet Jackson, I was so excited. Janet Jackson, one of my favorite performers, one of my favorite artists of all time. She's one of the greatest dancers of all time. So I was like, if anyone is going to do her justice, it's going to be Kennedy. What I mean, I guess Coco, but Coco's not here, so it's got to be Kennedy. So obviously Kennedy doesn't know the words, and the dance routine, which I don't think is her fault, I think it's the choreographer's fault. It's not Janet, it's Kennedy. Kennedy's doing her like high kicks and all of the Kennedy moves, so it takes me out of the Janet illusion. So part of it is Kennedy's fault, the fact that she doesn't know her words, but the other part, the choreo, I don't think is her fault. But regardless, she still had the worst performance of the night. Now, here's the controversial part. Thorgy and Milk are going to be the next two. Would Thorgy do better than Milk? Let's look at their performances. So Thorgy, she doesn't have a lot to do. I mean, she has some cool witchy dance moves. She's spinning around. She gets one little one-liner at the end. But for the most part, her performance is super flat because they don't give her nothing to do. There's no jokes really in her song. So it feels flat. But I will say she gave off Stevie Nicks energy. She's, spooking around. She's a little witchy. Again, if anyone was going to do Stevie Nicks, I'm glad it was Thorgy. Now, Milk gets Celine Dion, and obviously the outfit choice was the biggest mistake. I get why Milk did it, because if Milk is going to look like Celine Dion, this is the Celine Dion look that Milk would wear, right? But the point of the challenge is you're trying to be the diva, you're not being Milk. So I think if she came out in her, long blue navy gown, it would have been a better choice. It wouldn't have been as Milk, but it would have been more Celine. Another thing is she has this, frantic energy to her performance. I'm not the biggest Celine Dion fan. I don't, know all of her iconic performances or her performance style necessarily, but she was not giving what I think, what I would expect Celine Dion to give. It was giving Milk, right? It was giving Milk in, the rap challenge. And because the point of this challenge was to emulate a diva, I don't think Milk did that. Was it a bad performance? No, she was funny. She did some really cool dance moves, and she had some funny faces, and, she knew every word and every move. But it just wasn't what the challenge was asking. So I am going to put Milk at number 8. And I'm going to put Thorgy at number 7, which means our bottom 2 is going to be different. So now who is going to be number 6? It is going to be Trixie Mattel. Again, just kind of in the middle. Trixie gets Dolly Parton, and it's fine. But again, she just doesn't have as many bits that other queens get. She gets Adrenaline, and it's this fast country part, and it's really fun. And she hits all the moves, and she knows all the words, and everything is great. But some queens, I think, just had more to work with. So Trixie's going to end up here right in the middle. Now, number 5. These next 3 queens, I all think, did equally as well. Chi, Aja, and Bibi. I think all 3 of them emulated their divas. They were funny. They looked the part. They knew the words. Everything. They checked off all the boxes. So the only way to rank them here is I'm going to use the runway as a tiebreaker. So Chi had one of the worst runways, maybe the worst runway of the season, and it ended up putting her in the bottom 3, which I thought was absolute BS when she had such a great performance. I don't think the runway was really so terrible that it forced her to be in the bottom. So Chi, I'm going to put at number 5. Bibi had a fine runway. She kind of did a kind of a boring pick for her look to redo, just doing this kind of businesswoman chic look. She looked fine. It was fine. But Aja, I'm going to put it number 3 because her Amy Winehouse was really funny. and she also had one of, if not the best runway of the week when she redid her Princess Disaster. It is like such night and day looking at the original and looking at this one. So I think she hit the nail on the head with this runway. So that leaves our top two, which was the top two of this episode, Dayla and Shangela. And I'm going to put Shangela at number 2 and Dayla at number 1. But it's mostly just because Dayla had a funnier bit. You know what I mean? Like, they can only do so much with what they're given. These two queens were given so much, and they did exactly what they needed to. I just thought Dayla's part was funnier overall. So we have a bottom two of Milk and Kennedy. And we have Dayla and Shangela lip sync to Jump by the Pointer Sisters, one of my favorite songs that the show has ever had for a lip sync. And Shangela wins. Now, who is Shangela going to send home? Milk or Kennedy? I think it's going to be Milk regardless. But think about Milk had her meltdown this episode because she was safe. So imagine the meltdown she would have had if she was in the bottom. It would have been amazing to watch, one. But it also, I think, would have sealed her fate. And Shangela would have sent Milk home. So Milk is going to go home in 9th place instead of 8th place. Now we're moving on to another iconic challenge, the Bitchler. We have Thorgy here. So that's going to be interesting. How would Thorgy do? I think she would do great. I think that improv, she didn't really have an improv challenge on season 8, but she is just so naturally funny and naturally charismatic that I think she would be hilarious in this, especially if she had Milk's part, which I think she probably would. Or, they probably had parts for everyone, but let's just assume they would give Thorgy like some kind of crazy person like Milk's. So let's just say Thorgy gets the stalker or something like that. I think she could do so much better than Milk did. So let's look at these rankings. Now in 8th place, I put Chi Devayne. So Chi in this episode, you could just tell she wasn't there. It was head empty. You know what I mean? It was head empty. And it's so sad because she is so funny and she has that, natural wit to her, but it just did not come out, and she was a deer in headlights this whole challenge. Now, if Milk was here, I would have put her at 7th. I think she was really bad. She did too, Chi did too little, Milk did too much. I still think it's better to do too much than too little, so I put her above Chi. But since Milk is not here, that means we are going to have Aja at number 7. So Aja, she wasn't terrible. It was not horrible like Chi and Milk's were, but she just didn't have the quickness, Like a lot of these queens have like that fast, quick wit. They can pull out a quip, they can pull out a joke, and Aja just, I don't think she has that in her arsenal. At this point in her career, she didn't have this in her arsenal. But she had my personal favorite runway look of the week. So that is like a boost, if you ask me. But it still doesn't save her from being here at number 7. Now at number 6, we have Bibi Zahara Binet. Bibi was, I don't know, she was fine. She was playing the Virgin, and she decided to play the trope of like, the princess who is a virgin, and she's very like, like, it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't funny. I don't think there was a single joke that I like laughed at. I think she did an interesting take on it. I just don't think it necessarily worked out because she didn't have the jokes to back it up. So now at number 5, we have Shangela. Shangela is the definition in this challenge of fine. Completely fine. She had some jokes. They were fine. She didn't really have any fumbles like a lot of the other girls had. She was there. She was carrying her team with Chi, but I don't necessarily think it was like, the funniest thing I've ever seen Shangela do. So I think she kind of belongs right here, smack dab in the middle. Now we have either Trixie or Thorgy in number 3 and number 4. Because they would be working together here, I'm going to put Thorgy at number 4 and Trixie at number 3. Trixie, this was like perfect for her, right? And I do think that she was kind of stunted with some of her jokes and some of the things she wanted to do because Milk was just like stealing the thunder from every possible angle. But I think if it was her and Thorgy, they really, I mean, they're good friends outside of the show. I think they really could have bounced off each other. It really would have been funny. Number 2, I put Dayla. Obviously, we've seen her do this kind of milfy character before on season 6. This one, she actually did so much better. She had so many funny jokes. She had so many fun, like, visual gags and physical comedy. And, I mean, come on, this is like, these challenges are all up Dayla's alley. So are we shocked that she's doing well? No. Kennedy, though, I do think outshined her because she took Party Girl, which was her character. When I think Party Girl, I'm thinking, like, Kesha. But she did, like, I don't know, some, like, trashed but also hungover and also stoned, and like I don't even know what was happening. She was taking off her clothes and it was so funny, and it was like, yes, this is the Kennedy I want to see. Like, the episode 2 was such a disappointment for Kennedy, so I was so happy to see her really find her groove in this episode. And I'm sad that she couldn't keep it for the rest of the season, because we are going to see her kind of be the Roxy for the rest of the season. But yeah, so we're going to have Chi and Aja in the bottom 2. And we're going to have Kennedy and Dayla in the top 2, lip syncing to Green Light. And Kennedy wins. We won't get the iconic Milk moment because Milk is already gone. I don't think that Kennedy would send home Aja. I think that she could very easily justify keeping her friend Chi here because Milk had come for her, and Milk had such a bad attitude, and Milk had not been delivering at all up to this point. But Aja already had a win week 1, had a really solid performance in week 2, and had one of the best runways on this episode. And I don't think Chi would have let it happen. I think that Chi knew that it was her time. Even when Milk went home, I think Chi knew, like, I probably should have been the one going home. It's fine. So I don't think that she would have let Kennedy keep her in this moment. And I don't think Kennedy would want to. I mean, Kennedy's not dumb. You know what I mean? I don't think she would have wanted to get rid of Aja, who had been a great competitor and doing so well, just to keep her friend. So I do think it would be this like really sad moment where Kennedy has to send home Chi. So Chi-Chi's going to go home an episode earlier as well. So now we are looking at the Snatch Game. We have Thorgy here. Hopefully that means the Snatch Game would be better, because the Snatch Game was bad. The Snatch Game was really, really rough. There's a lot of people that went in and you're like, I know they're going to slay it. Like Shangela, I know is going to slay it. Trixie's going to slay it. Kennedy's going to slay it. Chi. So how would Thorgy do if she were here? First, Chi would have been in 7th place if she was still in the competition, but because she is not, Kennedy I'm going to put in last place. And we're going to put Trixie right above her in 6th. And it was close. I mean, neither of them did well. I will say Trixie got 1 laugh. Kennedy got no laughs. Trixie had a great runway. Kennedy had a fine runway. So it really is splitting hairs, but that's what it came down to, why I put Kennedy last and Trixie in 2nd to last. But right above them, I'm going to put Bibi. So Bibi did fine. She had some funny jokes. She did Grace Jones, and it was fine. So she kind of just skates by here. You know what I mean? Right above her in 4th place, I'm going to put Shangela. Now, Shangela was put in the top this episode over who I think deserved it more, Aja. And it was fine. She did Jennifer Lewis. She sounded like Jennifer Lewis. She looked like Jennifer Lewis. But kind of like in The Bachelor, she just wasn't as funny as I was expecting. You know what I mean? Like, I was expecting to be cracking up at Shangela in Snatch Game. And I was just kind of like, huh. You know what I mean? Like, I was just like, oh, that's funny. I wasn't, like, bursting out laughing like I was at Dayla. Now, in 3rd place, I'm going to put Aja. Now, Aja did Crystal LaBeija, which I think was a really smart decision, because especially on season 9, Aja came off as kind of, for lack of a better word, bitchy, and thought that she was better than a lot of the people there. And Crystal LaBeija is just like that energy, but like it fit her so perfectly, and she did that character so well. I thought she was really robbed of a top 2 spot. But I do think if Thorgy were here, that Thorgy would do better. I'm going to put Thorgy at number 2. Now, Thorgy did Michael Jackson on her original Snatch Game, and I would say she was the second best. Of course, as always, Bob like barely inched out a win over her. I'm not sure what Thorgy would do in this Snatch Game. I'm not sure if she has said, but especially considering the caliber that she has as her competition in the Snatch Game, I think Thorgy would hands down win this challenge, along with Dayla, who I would put at number 1. Maybe this is a hot take, I think her Paul Lynde is funnier than her Maggie Smith. That Crisco joke, the anonymous joke, I mean, those are so funny. Those are some of my favorite Snatch Game jokes ever. Paul Lynde is a top 3 Snatch Game for me. So, yeah, Dayla was the best. Now, what would happen if we have Dayla and Thorgy in the top 2 lip-syncing to I Kissed a Girl? I kind of feel like the same thing would happen. I think that Dayla took it upon herself to make it kind of like a duet. She pulled in Shangela, and it kind of made it like a storyline. I think Dayla would kind of do the same thing here. I don't see why she would change it just because Thorgy was here instead of Shangela. And I think Thorgy would do great in this lip sync. I think if Thorgy is going to do well at any lip sync, it's going to be one that she can camp up. Because she's not a dancer. She, as we saw in season 8, she's not great at giving like emotion. But I think if she can camp it up and just be a complete clown on that stage, she is going to do great. So yeah, I think that Thorgy and Dayla would get the double win, just like they did with Dayla and Shangela. Except this time, we have a bottom 2 of Trixie and Kennedy. And this is rough. It's really easy when you have Chi there too, because Chi had a horrible track record. It was just, her time to go. Trixie and Kennedy, I think, kind of had even track records. Because you have Trixie, who was safe for the first 2 weeks and then was high for the third. Kennedy was safe, then was in the bottom, and then won. So it's kind of like they completely even out. I think, and this could be wrong, Dayla had a good relationship with Trixie, and Thorgy had a really good relationship with Trixie. I think that they would use Kennedy's one bottom as justification to send her home, which is really sad because, Kennedy is incredible. But I just think, yes, she has a win, but Trixie has never been in the bottom before. So I think that it would kind of play into the friendships that are at play here. And I think that also no one wants to be the one to send home Trixie Mattel. You know what I mean? No one wants the fan reaction from that. So, unfortunately, Kennedy just has all these factors against her that Trixie doesn't have at this point. So I think we're going to lose Kennedy way earlier than we do in the real season. I mean, Kennedy is the runner-up, but I think she's going to go home in Snatch Game here. I don't see Dayla or Thorgy wanting to deal with what Alaska dealt with and what Roxy and Detox dealt with the season prior. And that leaves us with our top 6 in the Warhol Ball. So Thorgy's here. How would Thorgy do? Probably pretty well, honestly. In season 8, she did fine in both of the sewing challenges. I think what Thorgy would do really well at in this challenge, and what I think would give her kind of an edge upon, and that she might not get in other balls, is the camp element. She gets to do the camp Belle's soup can. So I think that she would probably do a really funny can, and then would probably have like a fine outfit. Like also honestly, Thorgy's whole aesthetic is this, vintage clown, right? So this challenge is kind of right up her alley. How would she do, though, stacked up against the other queens? Obviously, Shangela did the worst. Chandela was horrible, really, really bad. This is one of the worst design looks of all time. And her can was just like, I don't know, exactly what we expected. I think it was like hollow loops or whatever. Right above her, I'm going to put Dayla. Now, her can was, again, kind of surface level, just what we expect. Creme de la creme, terminally delightful soup. It's like, okay, well, you hit the nail on the head, but, like, can we take it a step further? And then her look was kind of basic. Like, it was fine. It was fine. But the hems on the neckline were weird, and on the arms were weird, and it was just lacking, where a lot of the other queens did these like show-stopping looks. Hers was average, but it didn't hold up. And then if Kennedy were here, I would put Kennedy right up here. But since Kennedy is not here anymore, I'm going to put Thorgy here. I think Thorgy would do a really cool can, and I think she would look pretty good. I'm sure she would do some kind of like gold lame fun thing. But the top three in this episode were just so good. I don't think she would have hit like that level. So top three, third place, I'm going to put Bibi. She had Zaza Soup, which was a choice, but it was honestly kind of funny. And then she had the runway look, which was really, really pretty. It didn't read Studio 54 to me, like, at all, but it was an amazing runway look. And then number two, I'm going to put Trixie Mattel. She had, I think, the best soup can, Pep Abysmal. It's campy, it's funny, like her, it's a pun, it's shticky, that's just totally Trixie. And then she had this really gorgeous, perfectly tailored bodysuit, and it read Studio 54 all over it. But, I mean, this Aja look, her can, the judges said it didn't fit her brand. I thought it did, because she's this very kawaii, anime-inspired bubblegum, and that is exactly what her soup can was. Then she gave one of the greatest design looks, literally of all time, which the judges ripped apart. But, I mean, she should have been in the top, hands down, for this episode. So, we have a top two of Aja and Trixie, and a bottom two of Dayla and Shangela, which is very interesting because Dayla and Shangela were the two frontrunners on this season. So, who would win the lip sync to The Boss? Trixie did okay, but I think the fact that she came out to do The Boss in a country look is just immediately kind of questionable. Is this song up Aja's alley? Not necessarily, but I think Aja would win. She is an incredible lip syncer, and she's very versatile at her style, so I think she could do this, hands down. So who is Aja gonna send home between Dayla and Shangela? I'm not sure. Because Shangela and Aja had somewhat of a friendship on the season, and we know that Aja was not a fan of Dayla's attitude at all throughout the season. She basically called her out for being fake. So I'm not sure what she would do. At this point, Shangela has one win and no bottoms, and Dayla has 4 wins and no bottoms. I think that Aja is going to play it safe because she wasn't super well integrated into the cast. She didn't know everyone. She was the newest one there. I don't think that she was going to take that risk and send home the biggest front runner. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe Aja would do that. Maybe Aja would just be like, Dayla, you're fake, and you're my biggest competition, so get out of here. I think that Aja would not, though. I think that she wouldn't want... She know that the fans weren't very positive on her after her run on season 9, so I think that she might play it safe here and just send home Shangela, which would, again, be a gag, because now 2 of our top 4 are gone. So we have our top 5 of Aja, Trixie, Thorgy, Bibi, and Dayla in the Katie Girls Challenge. Now, I went ahead and gave each queen a score from 1 to 5 on how I thought their performance was. And basically, I'm just going to take the average of the teams, and whoever has the highest average is going to win the challenge. Now, here are the scores. The Drag Up Your Life girls are going to win, but honestly, I think that if the teams had been the same, that the Sitting on a Secret girl should have won, honestly, but that's not the case here. So, let's rank the queens who are still in the competition. Last place, 5th place, I'm going to give to Dayla. Honestly, I liked her character. I thought it was really funny. She sold it. She had a solid verse. All of them did. You know what I mean? This was such a great challenge. Everyone did such a good job. I just think that other girls had better verses. So I'm going to put Dayla as 5th here. I'm going to put Thorgy as 4th. Thorgy had a really fun verse. It was crazy. It was, very frantic, which is exactly the energy that she gives off. And she had some really funny jokes in there as well. So she had a fully rounded performance, in my opinion. But in 3rd place, this was really hard because we have Trixie, Aja, and Bibi. I ended up putting Trixie. And the one thing that made me put her as 3rd over Bibi or Aja, because I think all 3 of them had great verses, all 3 of them had great looks, I thought all 3 of them performed amazingly, is that Trixie's wasn't necessarily branded towards Trixie. Bibi does Jungle Kitty, and you're like, yep, that makes sense. Trixie does IQ Kitty, and it's this funny shtick. It's hilarious. Her lyrics are on point. But when I think of Trixie Mattel, I don't necessarily think of going to math class. You know what I mean? So that's literally the only critique I can possibly give to any of these performances. So that's the one tiny little detail that puts Trixie at 3rd. And then I ended up putting Aja at 2 and Bibi at 1. Bibi's verse is just so crazy and out there and wild, and she sold it and was hilarious. So we have Bibi versus Aja to Nobody's Supposed to Be Here. And then we have a bottom 3 of Trixie, Thorgy, and Dayla. And then they get to bring somebody back, whoever wins the lip sync. So who's winning this lip sync? Bibi. Bibi literally was going to win the lip sync if she didn't take her wig off. The only reason she took her wig off is because probably producers or Ben was like, hey, throw the lip sync to me because I want to eliminate myself. Why else would she randomly take off her wig for no reason? So Bibi is going to win. Who is she going to eliminate? Well, we can sort of look at who she was going to eliminate originally. It's not confirmed, but it's basically confirmed that she picked Trixie, and that's obviously why she never wanted to reveal that. So, would she pick Trixie again? Her other options here are Thorgy and Dayla. Now, I don't think she was close with any of them. I think the reason she picked Trixie originally is because she was cool with Kennedy and she was cool with Shangela, but in this case, I don't really think has any relationship with Dayla or with Thorgy or with Trixie. So, we're just going to go based on track record here. Thorgy has never had a bottom. She's been low once. So, we're going to knock Thorgy out. Dayla has had 4 wins and 1 bottom. Trixie has had 1 win and 1 bottom. So I think Trixie is going to go home, which would be a gag. It would be a full gag. If Dayla didn't quit, I think that's what would have happened. But who is she going to bring back? She has the options of Kennedy, Shangela, Morgan, Chi, and Milk. She's not bringing back Milk. She's not going to bring back Chi, I don't think. And so that leaves the other 3. Shangela, Kennedy, and Morgan. She's obviously close with Morgan because they were early season queens. They have been touring together for literal years. But Morgan went home first. I think Bibi would bring back Shangela. I think she knows Shangela is a fan favorite. Shangela had been doing really well up until the point she went home, and they're friends. So I think that she would bring back Shangela. So now we have our top 5 going into the acting challenge. Thorgy, Shangela, Bibi, Dayla, and Aja. Now, how would they do in this acting challenge? Aja's going to be last. Aja did not do well in the acting challenge on season 9. She didn't do well on The Bachelor this season. Aja's not going to do well. And then we're going to put Bibi at 4 because Bibi just didn't do well. Her role obviously was made for her. Wasn't that funny. She did what she could, but it just wasn't as good as some of the other queens. So Bibi's going to be at 4. Now we have to choose between Shangela, Thorgy, and Dayla. And if Shangela keeps the role that she had, which I think she probably would, that means someone's getting Morgan's bird, and someone is going to get Trixie's, like, bitchy girl. If I had to recast, I think that Aja would probably take Trixie's role. I think that Thorgy would love to be the swan. I feel like Thorgy would be like, I want that. That's the craziest thing there. I want it. And then Dayla would probably take Kennedy's, maybe? So I think that, again, Shangela wasn't that great in this challenge. Her character didn't have, like, that many funny moments. So I think that we're going to see a top 2 of Thorgy and Ben. I think if anyone's going to make that swan funny, it's going to be Thorgy. And I think that they also might have helped her out a little bit more because she wasn't the returning queen. They kind of just left Morgan out to dry with that role. I think they probably would have helped Thorgy a little bit if it was going to be, like, way off. And then Dayla can just kill any acting challenge. Thorgy and Ben both can kill any acting challenge. Of the 5 queens here, they are the ones. Shangela as well, but Shangela's role just wasn't that funny. So we're going to see Thorgy and Dayla lip sync to Peanut Butter. And I think Dayla would win. Obviously, she can just do what she did in Anaconda. But I think Thorgy would do really well as well. Dayla is going to send home, obviously, Shangela. Shangela is the returning queen, and that will be the least blood that she can get on her hands. So that means we have a final 4 of BenDeLaCreme, Thorgy Thor, Aja, and Bibi Zahara Binet. So literally the only queen that still would be here is Bibi Zahara Binet. So how would they do in Kitty Girls? Bibi would be last. I think Bibi just, I don't know, her verse was fine. She messed up some of the dance moves, and her final runway was just kind of a disappointment. 3rd place, I'm going to put Thorgy Thor. Obviously, she did really well in Sitting on a Secret, so she would probably have a really fun verse here as well. But I do think that Dayla and Aja would do better. So we're going to put Aja as doing the best in this challenge, and Dayla as doing the second best. But we're going to cut 2 people. So who is going to get cut? If we're playing it fair, if this is no riggory, then the 2 queens with the worst track records are going to get cut. So the queens that have the 2 lowest dusted or busted scores at the finale are Bibi and Thorgy, which means we have a top 2, a final 2 of Dayla and Aja, which is kind of a cool callback to the first episode when they were the top 2 of the talent show. So they're going to lip sync to Wrecking Ball, but of course the final lip sync doesn't really matter. The queen with the best track record is going to win, and of course it's BenDeLaCreme. I mean, is there any other, like, option than BenDeLaCreme winning the season? This was very wild. It was very different. It was a very different season than we actually got. I mean, literally the only queen in the top 4 to make it that far is Bibi. Crazy that we lose Trixie during IQ Kitty, but I mean, like I said, we almost got that anyways. Kennedy we lose so quick. Chandela's the comeback queen. I mean, it would have been insane. But I think it would have been really nice to also get to see some queens like Thorgy and Aja get to make it a little bit longer. But yeah, what do you guys think? Am I giving some of these queens too much credit? I tried to be as unbiased as possible. Of course, I want to hear your thoughts. Who do you think would have won the season if it was not rigged? And how would the season have looked for you? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Here are links to all of my social medias. Make sure to subscribe. And yeah, that's all I got today. It's been such a long day solving the mystery of who Bibi Zahara Binet had in her bra on that lip sync during the Drag Up Your Life challenge. And the answer is the drag detective, because I'm sure you are all going to roast me over the coals for this video in the comments. And you know what? Have at it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.